There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lori. How are you?
Hey, Lauren, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Super excited about today's guest.
I am too. And speaking of which, for all of the audience that's here that was here last week, so the first thing is we have a guest. We're already ahead of the game. Our guest showed up today, so that's a good thing. But I wanted to just say thank you to everybody for last week being the guest. Oh, look, the guest showed up. That's a preview of the guest. Okay, Kevin, we're coming back to you, but look at there, we got a guest, an actual guest today. So I don't have to pull off a little song and dance like I did last week, but in actuality, like Lauren and I were just talking about, from you guys and your feedback last week went well. So you know what that means, Lauren? At any given time, if I can't get a guest, I know our audience will become our guest, just like last week. So guys, you are all on call at any given time. You are the guest. Oh, and Emma's watching your back, Lauren. She's saying that the chat's disabled.
Oh, I actually just clicked it. Emma, give it a try again. Well, hold on. Let me.
What would we do without Emma in the audience all the time? I mean,
Okay,
she just takes care of us so much that, you know what? I think we got to get Emma back on. So Emma, I'm going to get back with you, and you're going to have to come back in the fall because I can't go too long without having Emma on. I just love having her on the show. Okay. Anytime, Lori. I love that. Okay, Lauren, launch us, get going, because I want to get our guest on and I want to get everything flowing here. So go ahead and make it happen.
Okay, here we go. So again, good morning, everyone. Super excited to have you guys. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly, and I'm going to go through a quick intro. So again, good morning. My name is Lauren Simpson. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. We're a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, and we offer no-cost services to local small businesses. Now, our services are at no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of all of our fees. So for the Los Angeles Regional Network, we represent or serve the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And if you take a look at the screen in front of you, you'll see our physical center locations. You see that we are in Camarillo, Santa Clarita, Pasadena, all the way out to Laverne, throughout Los Angeles, the South Bay, down into Long Beach. Here's a deeper dive into what it is that we offer, what those free services are. So we offer no-cost business advising. That means you are able to sit one-on-one with one of our business experts. And we have individuals with expertise in the fields of marketing, finance. You can even sit with our guru of numbers, Ms. Lori Williams. We have experts in, if you're just starting your business, so business planning, market research. If you are looking to grow your business, we have an entire team. They're called the ACT team, for access to capital, and they can assist you there. We also offer virtual trainings. Now, those are going to be comprehensive workshops that assist you in beginning your business, adapting, and or growing. Be sure to get in contact with us. We are excited to get started with you. You can reach us by phone, 866-588-7232, or online, smallbizla.org/new client. If you're outside of LA, you can go to americassbdc.org/find your SBDC. With that, I will stop my screen share. Lori, really quick housekeeping. Let's be sure that those of you who are new to our show, please be sure to put all questions into the Q&A and check the chat. The chat is our quasi party scene. And so you'll see a ton of guests or not guests, but attendees. Well, sometimes the guests, I guess, Lori, right? Sometimes they jump into the party, but it's more so for our attendees to jump in there and to converse regarding the topic or the guests that we have on the show. It's also a place where you can find links. So those are going to be helpful links for you to review past shows, to engage in any sessions Lori might be hosting, and to, of course, get in contact with her and or our guest. So with that, thank you, Lori. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Perfect. And Lauren, speaking of getting in contact with you, I want to remind our audience that if you want to be on the show or you know somebody that wants to be on the show, send an email to Lauren. I'm currently booking for September, October, and November. And as you guys know, it's not about succeeding. It's about the entrepreneurial journey. It's about telling the story. I get too many people going, I'm not quite there yet. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's what we want. We want people to tell the story. So in other words, don't be intimidated. I have never had, and Lauren, you can back me on this, anybody who came on that even ones that were in adversary in situations within their company that didn't have great gems to tell. Every single, I mean, some of our best shows were the people who had the worst challenges that they were experiencing. So it's not about, oh, I got to reach some certain goal and then I can come on. It's like, no, come on, tell the story, laugh with us, be with us. So it's been more challenging, you know, given that the show's like a year and a half to find guests. And I'm always needing to go out in the world and say, hey, anybody know anybody? Is your neighbor that has a store? Be a good, you know, anybody, just send me names or have them contact Lauren and we'll talk with them about being a guest. I just wanted to make that announcement. Okay, going back to Mythbuster. This is a Mythbuster that I wanted to talk about today because I just get a lot of confusion and it's a confusing topic. So it's one of those guys that I'm going to bring up. I'll tell you. And then if you're like, I still don't get it, which could be the case, you just say, hey, you know, Lauren, get me in touch with Lori. I got to go over this. But this has to do with tax estimates. How are tax estimates calculated? Do I need to pay in a tax estimate? We just got behind April and people are kind of saying, well, should I have paid in a tax estimate? So let me tell you the down dirty story of how this works. So first of all, we want to, in our mind's eye, be an employee for a second. When we're an employee, as you know, when you were first time an employee, you got your salary check and you were like, where did all the money go? And then somebody said, oh, it's about FICA. You're paying in your taxes. So the IRS is taking the money out before you get the paycheck. IRS likes to do that because they know if you get the money and then owe them, you've already spent it. So they don't like that. They want to owe you back just a little bit. That's how the system is set up, right? But when you're a company, they can't go to your client and say, hey, pay me before you pay them. So what they do is if you think of it this way, when a government can't have that amount of control, they try to control through penalties. So think about a speeding ticket. The cop can't control my foot on the gas pedal. So they want me to go a certain speed. They have a stop or speeding sign, right? And they want me to stay within that limit. So what they do is they have a penalty. If I go over that and I get caught, I pay a speeding ticket. So the behavior is managed through penalties. Well, tax estimates are very much the same way. So what happens is, here's the rule, and this rule is for all businesses and individuals. Nobody's excluded. So I'm going to say it slowly because you got to think it through. In order to avoid an underpayment penalty, you must pay in either 90% of the current year, the year we're in, or 100% of the prior year. Now, why the prior year? How many of you get your taxes done in December? No, you get them done in April, you know, or sometime around there, March if you're an S Corp. So you don't know how much you're going to owe. So that's why paying in 90% of the current year can be challenging. So what they do is they allow you to pay in 100% of the prior year. So when a tax preparer does your taxes that year, often if you owed, you're going to get a little coupon. They call it a coupon, but you make in 4 payments that equal up to what you owed the previous year. This is making sure when they see you next April, you don't have to be concerned about an underpayment penalty. But those tax estimates you're paying in do not reflect what you owe that year. It could be you owe more or less. It's a payment towards. So a lot of times people think, well, I didn't have to pay in the previous year, so I'm sure I'm good, but they were not profitable, so they didn't owe anything. And so they have to realize that you have to go to the previous year. So hopefully that bit of information just gives an aha moment, like, oh, okay, that's how it's calculated. Oh, that's why those coupons are there. That's why I didn't have to pay anything in because I didn't have profitability. Last week, we talked about Social Security and Medicare if you don't have profits and you don't pay in. Well, this also goes into the tax penalty. Okay, guys, so that's enough on that. Let's get going here on my financial literacy series is continuing. We got session 2 and session 3. These are the ones where I go through financial or managerial accounting, where I teach you how to identify whether you're profitable and show you how to create an Excel model custom to your situation to allow you to answer key business questions like, can I afford to hire somebody? Am I profitable? What is my selling price, etc. I run this every month. And I tell you, I have a group of people come through. Some of them then contact me for further sessions. And it's a game changer because many times they identify that they really weren't selling at the profitability that they thought they had. So it's a game changer. Okay, upcoming shows. I got Simara coming back on. She is what I'm calling my resident HR person. I like to have her on every quarter or so because I like to talk about AB5, which is still a confusing thing. Can I hire independent contractors, as well as some of the new regulations coming out? We always end up having a conversation that exceeds the allotted time. So I always say, come back on and give us an update of what's going on. Then the following week, we have our loved Deborah Darris coming on, one of our regulars. She comes on often speaking about social media and marketing, but she's really delved into AI. And I know that everybody's got it kind of front of mind, AI, should I be using it? How should I be using it, et cetera? So I asked Deborah to come on and talk to us about how can we use AI in our business, what opportunities are out there, and just a few questions around AI. So that's going to be a fascinating conversation for me as well, because I'm not really familiar with it. So I'm really looking forward to learning. Now for today, I'm so excited to have Kevyn on. Kevyn is the founder and owner of Fluffy's Sno-Balls. And he was born and raised in the vibrant and festive city of New Orleans, where his love of snowballs originated. So, Kevyn, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
First of all, I love the name Fluffy Snowballs. I don't know where it came from, but you're going to share us with it. But you know, it's so funny. Even just saying Fluffy Snowballs makes me laugh. It's like this wonderful name. It's like before, I mean, you know, we always talk about naming our product or service to get an emotion. Before I would even know about what it is, I'm already excited and happy. And so I just want to start out by saying that's cool on the name. But Kevyn started in New Orleans, fell in love with snowballs. Can you fill in the blanks? What was the inspiration of you starting your own company? Give us like a little bit of the story, okay?
So mine is a story that's quite unusual. I actually moved to California in 2005 as a result of Hurricane Katrina. I had also completed college that spring in 2005 as well. So the summer I moved home, Hurricane Katrina happened that summer. I moved home that Friday. The hurricane happened that Sunday. I lost everything. My paternal grandmother was missing. My maternal grandfather was missing. My family was fragmented across the South. It was a really hard time. And I was feeling a bit, excuse me, I was feeling a bit intellectually arrogant because I just finished college and I was ready to take on the world. And so I left my family during the height of the debacle, got in my car, drove nonstop, came straight to California, went directly to the Red Cross. I told them my name is Kevyn Lee. I need food, shelter, and clothing. They put me in a shelter and they had given me $1,000 on a gift card. So I used that $1,000 to buy suits and shirts because I knew I needed to interview. And so I was hot, I was depressed. I had no family, no friends here. This was kind of before social media really had taken off. And I was walking Venice Beach. And I was like, I want a snowball. And I realized they didn't have any there. Only thing they had was frozen yogurt and ice cream. And so I was like, oh, somebody need to bring New Orleans snowballs here. And I said, oh, I'll do it. But I kind of just focused on my corporate career. I ascended to the role of vice president of operations for US Foods. Then I eventually ascended to the role again with a cannabis company. And during COVID, I was working in the cannabis company and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of working for other people. And I said, I'm gonna step out on faith and start my own business. People thought I was crazy because here in California, where we have the most stringent COVID requirements and regulations. They were shutting down restaurants, and I'm in the middle of the pandemic trying to open up a restaurant. And what I thought was a 16-year dream deferred has turned out to be a destiny fulfilled.
Oh my God, that's all I know how to say. Okay, Kevin, already I got goosebumps on every level. I think I could end the show right now, and that is the most incredible story. So before I go to the next question, I want to say, and Lauren, this is the takeaway, and I don't know the right words, but to any entrepreneurs out there that say it's hard, it's struggle, you can't pick up from it, you overcame issues on every single level again and again and again. So I already feel completely inspired before even getting into the details of it. So walk us through when you determined, okay, I am now going to start my company. I want to go first backwards a little bit. Kevin, this is a weird question that comes to me, but maybe it resonates with you as well. I speak to a lot of young entrepreneurs, and I'm not against people jumping out immediately by no means, but I also say that there is some benefit to not jumping out immediately and getting some experience, because sometimes they're just so readily wanting to be their own boss, but they're just not got the foundation. So I always say, you know what? It doesn't hurt. They're in their 20s. Work for somebody for a little bit, gather information, and then become an entrepreneur. I find that a lot of our universities are pushing people to be a senior and jump into an entrepreneurship role immediately. So before we go forward, can we back up and say, what did the delaying the dream give you to make the dream more successful today?
What delayed my dream of creating my own business, being that it was kind of a 6-year dream deferred, is when I've only worked in management for one. So even in high school, I was working as UPS as a part-time supervisor, supervising and managing people way older than my parents in the union environment, which is extremely challenging. And I'm just like this kid that's like $110 in high school. And he hired me because at the time UPS had just started to introduce IPLD, which I'll never forget, internal package level detail, where we can scan packages and now customers can go online and track them. So that was at the beginning of that technology. And so throughout academia, I was drum major, I was student council president. I've always held a leadership role. And I decided that after school, I wanted to, as I said, I was planning on, like every other college student, get a degree, find a company that's going to pay you a nice bit of money. And, if I could make $50,000, I thought I was set for life. It was like, that was my goal, $50,000. Not realizing that you have to pay attention to your life and you have to be a student of your life. I've had a very unorthodox career. As I stated earlier, I started with UPS in high school. After UPS, my first job after undergrad was working for the Boy Scouts of America here in California, doing development recruitment for the Boy Scouts in the Black and Latino communities. Then, working in that role, I think I was getting paid like $36,000. I still felt like a struggling college student. And through some of the connections I made at the Boy Scouts, I had an opportunity to interview for an air cargo operations manager, overseeing all the cargo freight that flew into LAX. And so I liked it. It was a very low stressful job. You're on the airfield. I mean, biggest concern was just making sure people follow security protocols, because this was post 9/11. Then a year and a half into that tenure, I guess somehow through divine intervention, a recruiter reached out to me and told me there's this company called Amazon that's looking for managers. Now, Amazon wasn't what we know it to be today. It was growing, and it was growing quite rapidly. And so he was like, oh, you have to fill out these 10 questions. And I was like, having to be bored that weekend. I was like, okay, I did it, because he said he had to keep it confidential initially. So I filled the 10 questions out, and then he's like, oh, you got a case study to do. Now, I had completed my graduate studies, my MBA, and the concentration in organizational leadership. And I just happened to be bored. I did the math problem, did the case study, submitted it. He said, okay, now I can tell you what the company is. And he said, Amazon. So I'm still not sure what Amazon was. I'm Googling this company. I'm thinking it's some online company, thinking I'll be working from home, sending stuff off. I don't know. I really didn't know much about the company. and in depthly. And so they said, well, they want to interview you. They flew me to Arizona. I did a whole panel interview all day, presented my 4 case studies, presented my math problem. And by the time I got to the airport, a recruiter called and was like, how did things go? And I told him, the experience. He said, well, it must have was good because they offered you a job. So Amazon threw all this money at me, all this stock. I mean, it was a seminal moment for my career. That's when I got ingratiated into lean process improvement, Kaizen. And so it really changed the trajectory of my career. I became a green belt certified and highly competitive environment. I mean, if you improve the process, I was trying to improve that process within 60 days. It's a very dog eat dog environment. I'd never worked that hard in my life, 16-hour days, 6 days a week, 13-hour days. And I said, I never ever want to work like that again.
Yeah.
So I stayed in that role for about 3 years. Then I got recruited by Nature's Bounty to become a director of operations. They were in crisis mode. So they were looking for someone to come and hit the ground running who can like do things fast. So I worked in that role for a while. I really enjoyed it. I was making over 6 figures at this point. So I felt quite successful, but I hated the job. I hated the company. It was just draining, emotionally draining. And I sat in my car one day going to work and I was just like, God help me. I was listening to motivational tapes by Les Brown and Tony Robbins. And something say, go to Africa. I have no connection to Africa but my ancestry. And so in that moment, I took a flight to Africa. Went to my desk, booked the ticket to South Africa, took 2 weeks off and a life transformational experience. Got back to corporate America and I left the company. And I was like, felt something just about it just didn't sit right. But I knew I wanted to be a director. So I talked to a few of my mentors and they're like, well, you got to get experience with food manufacturers. So I started working with PepsiCo. And then I stayed there for about a year because I didn't like the culture because it was a really staunch union environment. And then I got recruited to become a vice president of operations and for US Foods. And I thought I had like reached the pinnacle of my professional career. I was excited. I was in my early 30s. So I'm making over over $250,000 with bonus incentives. So I just thought I was really doing a thing, but I hated it because it was like a God trick. God gave me the job, but then he tells me, oh, the job is going to be in Utah. And so first of all, I'm the only Black person that probably did. I was in most places. I think Black people make up like 1% of the population in Utah. If that. And so I was like, well, I want to do it for the job. And you asked the question, what did I learn throughout all of that made me who I am today? Paying attention to my life. I learned process improvement. I learned leadership skills. I learned management skills. I learned discipline. I learned follow through. I learned how to network. I learned how to communicate. I learned systems. I learned process flows. I learned how to constantly evolve and create or recreate and make processes more efficiently. I love nice things and I like to, shop and go to nice restaurants. So I'm really big into customer service just naturally. But throughout being in leadership, I have always been able to kind of challenge the status quo and kind of redefine the environment in which the people who work for me and the leadership that they were presented with was different from what most people knew or expected from leaders. So now that I was able to create my own company, I'm able to take all those good and bad pieces of all those different life experiences and say, okay, this stuff was good. I want to use this. This stuff was bad. I'm definitely not going to use that. I had some managers and bosses who gave me jewels and who bred and fed into me as a person and as a leader. But I also had bosses that were very bad people and who you couldn't give me anything. I don't want to take anything from you.
Right.
So all of that was a culmination of saying, now, God has blessed you with the opportunity in the middle of a pandemic, which was extraordinarily hard, to create a company, a restaurant. Remember, everything was shut down, including restaurants.
Yep.
And I'm trying to open one up. And I was given the grace and the favor to be able to start my own business. So everything had to be intentional. What did I want it to smell like? What did I want it to look like? What type of people I wanted to have in my company? How did I want to change the status quo? Did I want to be thought of as a Black-owned business? Or did I just want to be thought of as a business? I mean, I'm Black, quite naturally. So if it's owned by me, it's owned by a Black-owned. I don't need to play on those labels. For me, it was about creating, and I'm also gay. and I'm married to a man. So it's like creating a company that made no one feel invisible. And we thought about everyone, in terms of dietary restrictions, flavors. I mean, there's so much thought and intentionality that went into the creation of this company. And so being able to, draw upon my own life experiences as a leader, as an operations guy, and I am an ops guy through and through, very hands-on, creating systems. Fluffy Sno-Balls is a small company, but it has systems galore. Everything has a process, everything has a system, and nothing is over analyzed or analytical. I can pull someone off the street, show them their standard work map, and they'll be able to get it and do the job. For me, it's about doing the work and giving instruction and training and putting it where people can get it. I want to give opportunity to the youth, to kids, Black and brown kids. I wanted people to, like, when the kids say, oh, my first job was McDonald's, and I want people to say my first job was Fluffy Sno-Balls. And so looking at the totality of all that I've learned, all that I've been exposed to, the classes, the trainings, the reading. I'm an avid reader, so I do a lot of reading. Like primary example. I remember I read a book where Warren Buffett said, when the world is fearful, that's when you be greedy. The world was fearful during COVID. I negotiated one of the best damn commercial real estate deals in terms of rate during that process. I don't pay no triple net. Only thing I pay is rent.
There is so much that you said to unpack. First of all, I want to tell you that my heart is so moved by having you on the show. A shout out to Joseph Jackson for the referral. So I just want to make mention. One of the things I want Lauren to capture is you have many phrases, but two I remember: deferred dream. I think that's a beautiful expression that everybody can kind of say, while I'm working on it, it's a deferred dream. And student of my life. That was a beautiful expression. And Kevin, one of the things, and you speak of God, and I don't care what you believe in, it could be the lamp, but I think that, and one of the things I noticed throughout your speech, and I try to do it in my life, when we stop going into the future to try to figure out what's going on there in the past, and we just go in the now and we let life flow through us. I talk about that all the time. I always say, Lori, just let life flow through us. When I was younger, I was so caught up in what I should be, what I need to be, and I'm not good enough, and I'm not worthy, and I got to be this, and I got to make this much money. And then when I finally just let it all go and started just embracing the joy of just being alive and having experiences. And that's what I hear in your story, is this just joy of embracing and having experiences. And the last thing I want to comment on that is, thank you so much for speaking about just being a human, not having a label. I have to comment on that. I feel as though diversity has no labels. And I talked to somebody the other day and I said, why don't we just look at each other, point our fingers and go, human? And I like saying it with an ET type voice, right? Because all I see with everybody, when I look at everybody, all I ever see is human. That's it. That's all. I don't see anything beyond that. I never have. And I don't understand why we have to be something we already are. Human, having, spirit, having a human existence. Let's just embrace it and have friggin' fun and see. So thank you for mentioning that. I would like to also point out to our guests something that you said so important. And Kevin, I talk about this all the time. You said you're a small company, but you have processes in place. And I don't want that to get lost on the audience, because I tell everybody, even if you're just one person, if you have processes, you can expand and bring anybody in at any given time. And Amazon, I always use an example, is really a process company. So I love that you said that. Take us now into some tangibles. What is Fluffy Sno-Balls? It's a restaurant? Is it a physical location? Give us the tangible, what we're experiencing when we see Fluffy Sno-Balls, wherever we see it. Tell us all about that too, because by the way, Lauren will say it at the end. When I told her you were coming on the show, she said, I've already taken our family to Fluffy Sno-Balls. They're great. So Lauren knows the answer to that question. I don't. So tell us all about the logistics and the tangible aspects of Fluffy Sno-Balls.
So Fluffy Sno-Balls is the first authentic New Orleans shaved ice quick service restaurant in the city of Long Beach. And now we have been blessed and honored to be able to open up our second location in the city of Los Angeles, which you guys are getting a sneak peek of somewhat of the set of how things are here in LA. I'm at the LA store doing an interview. But Fluffy Sno-Balls, so Sno-Balls permeate the culture in New Orleans. So most people here in California are familiar with snow cones. There's a clear distinction between a snowball and a snow cone. A snow cone is that hard, crunchy, rocky ice, that artificial flavor. It's not very flavorful. It is very watered down. It sinks and go right through the ice. So you're left with just a hard block of ice.
I know. I hate those, by the way, Kevin. I hate those. They're just, I remember as a kid and you just got plain ice, yes. And I always hated those. So I'm with you now, but I never had a snowball. So tell me, what is a snowball?
That is a snow cone. A snowball is so what we do here at Fluffy Sno-Balls, we finally shave our ice where the texture of the ice is literally identical to snow. So if you had snow, real natural snow, and you had Fluffy Snowball ice side by side, it will be completely incomparable which one is authentic from nature and which one is not. So the ice texture is identical to snow. We have over 70 plus flavors. I formulate all of the flavors and each have their own specific recipe and ingredients. And the quality of the syrup is made with pure cane sugar. So it's not overly sweet. It's not watered down. The flavors does not taste artificial. So if you say, I love watermelon, or I love mango, or I love lihing mui, the flavor will be spot on. And what it does is the way I formulate my syrups and with the texture of the ice, it infuses the ice. So your last bite, literally, your last bite will be just as delicious as your first bite. And as Lauren can tell you, you can enjoy it from the top down. The ice, the quality, it's a lot cleaner than ice cream. We also have 70 plus flavors, and guess what? I can make any of my flavors sugar-free. Whereas most people who are, relegated to eating sugar-free, they only get like 1 or 2 options. You can come and you can have the same menu experience as a person with no dietary restrictions. And that's why we always say Fluffy Sno-Balls is a place where no one is invisible. And that's why we offer so much, because we have a very expansive menu. And so what a snowball is just, I call it joy in a cup, really. It's all made with love. And we do something quite differently. We add a gummy bear, a really high quality gummy bear on top. So it's not hard when you get to it. It's cute. And then we've innovated the shave ice industry. We have created the first what we like to call the fiery voodoo snowball. So we have a snowball that actually emanates smoke out of it. So while you're enjoying it, you have smoke flying out of the snowball into the air, which is really great. It blows the kids away, blows customers away. And we have a lot of new stuff coming out. So the distinction between a snow cone is it's not that hard, crunchy ice with artificial flavors. It's very soft, very delicate, finely shaven ice with high quality syrups. And the flavor based off my recipe are very precise and distinctive.
Oh, I can't imagine anybody else in the audience is probably not like me. I want one now. I'm not even anywhere close to killing.
And we are home of the cheesecake stuff, Snowball. So if you love cheesecake, you can get any Snowball, any size, any flavor, built and stuffed with real graham cracker crusted New York style cream cheese cheesecake.
Wow. Wow. Well, I grew up in upstate New York in the country. I always tell people I wasn't country, I was podunk. That's how I was. I grew up with farms and everything like that. And we used to eat the snow. We loved eating snow. I loved eating snow. So the minute you said tastes like snow I had a picture of my snow being flavored. I would like, oh my God, that would be awesome. Which is another interesting thing is that as you were talking about starting out as a kid and other things you learn, I was resonating with you on that because I grew up picking beans on a farm. And I remember thinking, I want to get paid for what I know, not what I physically can do. Now, I had no definitions of blue collar or white collar. I didn't know those words. I didn't know my family was blue collar. We were in the country. We didn't have labels like that. We were just podunk country people, right? And it wasn't until later I was like, oh, I see. I realized where I wanted to go from there. So now make sure, and I think Lauren has it. Lauren, you've got the addresses to Kevyn's place to put in the chat, because I know while we got everybody wanting to get fluffy snowballs, and I want everybody to know where to get to Kevyn to get the fluffy snowballs. So make sure we got that information in the chat, Lauren, and if we don't, let's get it from Kevyn right now, okay? She's
you guys can definitely come to the restaurant. We're open every day except for Mondays. From 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we do have parking, and there's parking, gated parking, and there's parking directly in front of the store on the street. And once again, the address is 1208 Long Beach Boulevard, Long Beach, California, 90813. And at the end of this month, we are hoping to have our second location open, fingers crossed.
Oh, we got our fingers crossed. We're rooting for you. So guys, go buy some fluffy snowballs and help Kevyn get to the LA one open. And I think another thing I want to go back to is how you talked about really securing a excellent lease, because it was the middle of the pandemic and you had power. Now, I remember I don't know if it was Katrina, it was some flood catastrophe when I was in my 20s, and I was watching the TV show, and it was talking about everybody losing their house, and I was like, oh. Then there was a contractor on talking about how his business is booming because he was selling lumber, and I thought to myself at that time, I always want to be the lumber salesperson, right? But what it did, Kevyn, and you so elegantly demonstrated in your story, is it told me no matter what's happening out in the community, in the world, whatever, there's always a way to make it work. There's always something that's growing. That's why I actually became an enrolled agent about 3 years ago to do tax preparation. I'm not really functioning as a tax preparer so much, but I'm certified by the IRS as a tax preparer. I said to myself, if tomorrow the apocalypse really comes and the world is almost done, it's not ended enough, but I'm still here, the IRS will still demand a tax return. So I got a job till the end of the earth, right? For that same thing. But I think it's that belief, instead of staying focused on what is not, looking out and saying what could be. And I think that's fascinating.
And Lori, for me, I like to tell people, in the words of James Baldwin, you have to go the way your blood boils. When I look at some of the more pivotal milestones in my life, they were always plagued by a huge tumultuous disaster. Starting off with Hurricane Katrina. It's in California, we have an earthquake. They say, okay, you may can't go to your home because of wires, may can't go to your home because of fires. But think about it, during Hurricane Katrina, you didn't even have a city to go to.
Yeah.
It's not like you can say, okay, well, I can go down the street to stay in this hotel. I can go stay by our relative's house, 5-10 miles down the road. The entire city had to be vacated. So you have people, various income and socioeconomic statuses that had it difficult. Even if you had money, it's like, okay, maybe you can provide a shelter for your family for a week. You had enough money to save to get a nice hotel, or 2 weeks. But what happens when we were out of New Orleans, it was indefinite. So it wasn't like, oh, you guys just need to be away for 2 weeks and then you can figure it out. You're going to come back home. So even if you came from, a middle-class family, or you had the money to kind of secure your family, that was only going to be run out eventually, because no one could work. The government wasn't providing any resources. You have the American Red Cross, and they only can do so much. And then you don't have a place to go to. So when you're faced with that kind of challenges, and as I try to explain to people, like, the reality of it, I came here with nothing. My family, everyone was fragmented. My paternal grandmother, we didn't know where she was. I didn't find her for like 3 months later. My grandfather, we didn't find him for 6 months later. And these are older people who are, worked their whole lives, owned homes, had security, and they're kind of old and stubborn. So that's why my grandfather didn't leave, and my grandmother, she didn't leave because she's old and stubborn too. Like, they didn't live life, and they're like, oh, hurricaning, this and that, but this one was different. And so You have family members who I know are very successful, but also, like I said, their finances ran out after a while. So what do? People try to figure out how to survive, how to support themselves. And when I came here, I personally felt like I went through a spiritual transformation because I had no idea how life for me was going to unfold. I had no idea what I was going to, what was going to happen. Only thing I knew, I was on a prayer and a wing. And when I speak about God, I simplify it, but for me, it's about having faith in me, in a belief in something greater than yourself. I simplify it by calling it God. So when I came here with nothing. And then I had a dream. And it's funny because the same dream that I had walking on a beach in my moment of destitute, alone, hot, and exhausted was what I ended up starting a company and building a dynamic company with. Fluffy Sno-Balls have only been around for 2.5 years. This company was non-existent, and we have taken this, me and my team have taken this company from non-existent to #1 ice cream shop in the state of California and rated #5 in the nation by Yelp, which is the leading review arbitrator. And then when COVID happened, the world shut down. Once again, nobody knew what to do. Those are very two defining moments. And in COVID, I acted, same way I acted during Katrina, not knowing what the hell I was doing, not sure. I mean, I was educated. I have degrees. I knew, I learned a lot on my own. I didn't listen to the BS that people tell you on Instagram. I reached out to the SBDC. I reached out to SCORE. I participated in every cohort I can, because even though I was a senior executive that had ran multiple multi-billion-dollar corporations, I never ran my own. And so I needed to understand what that process was like, what permitting was like, what construction was going to be like, dealing with permitting, dealing with contractors, things that I just never thought about. Because it's not just like you take money, go find a building, open up a business, and now you can start a business. It's not that easy. And the city bureaucracies do not make it easy, especially COVID. People don't answer the phone. Oh, why? Because it's COVID, huh?
Yeah. I know.
Email because it's COVID, and it's just delaying, and money gets poured out. And so, for me, as I said, I've always had some type of divine favor, grace, and mercy that I've been very connected to. And I pay attention to it. And I give gratitude for all things, even the tough times, because I know that I know my struggle, and I know that it has been my faith and that has been my saving grace have gotten me to this point. And that's why I think the company has become so successful, because it is rooted out of service. It is rooted out of sincerity. It's rooted out of quality. And that's why, and for our customers, we wrap them up in that Southern hospitality and love. And all of it works. You have a great product. Somebody else can go out there and, try to sell a product, but they won't have the same experience. That's why we tell customers, you have to come and experience the Fluffy Sno-Balls experience. And that's why we have been consistently rated since the company has been open 5 stars with over 470 customer written reviews on Yelp and Google.
Kevin, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. This is just a fabulous conversation. And, I've been saying for some time, especially since COVID, that I feel as though the more we can get into our own being, follow what it is that we feel like we are moving towards, take out all of that fear, and create our own way of making money, the more we are taking and becoming empowered within ourselves, the more we can control our own environment to the degree we can, but the more we can make our decisions. And that's kind of been my take, is like, let me find all kinds of ways to reach out and touch people and get them to a point of empowerment where they can feel good about life and enjoy it again. And that's what you have done to the nth degree. You know what I would like to chat about a little bit right now, Kevin, is that what I experienced, there's 2 parts I want to bring up on this, is that one, I really appreciate what you're saying about starting over, because we're talking with a lot of entrepreneurs right now whose companies had to close down because of COVID. And I tell them that your company is going away, not you. You made the money. You can start over with a new idea that's more pertinent to today. There's no ending of you now. You're still breathing. But within that sense, we also have to come down and tie in the financials of the company to make sure that we are operating profitably. We are operating in a financial healthy way. Otherwise, the bank suddenly says no go anymore, right? So will you chat to, I know all these experiences you had helped you, but what, any angle you want to go, Kevin, but to the importance of really understanding the financials of the company to allow it to stay within what I call the monopoly game on planet Earth.
So, as I mentioned earlier, when others are fearful, you be greedy. One of the first things I knew with this company is that I wanted this company to be around for a while. And one of the first persons I hired before I did anything was I hired a bookkeeper and an accountant. I tell entrepreneurs all the time, I know you feel like it's an added cost. Just think about your cell phone bill going up. It is so worth the investment. You have to have your books in order. Your books are the basis and foundation to your company. Whether you're investing your own money or whether you're seeking loans, grants, people don't even give you a grant if your books are not right. So you have to make sure that your books are in order. And the first purchase that I made, first person I hired was a bookkeeper and an accountant. And I wanted to let people know that set a budget, set a realistic budget for yourself in terms of what you want how you want to go about creating your company, and include everything inside of that budget, everything you can think of, but also create a cushion for those unexpected expenses that you will have. For me, creating Fluffy Sno-Balls, the first year was all about creating a solid infrastructure. So in addition to having my bookkeeper and my accountant, I had a lawyer because I knew I needed to protect myself. I had all my insurances that I needed. I also, I hired my trademark. I had an attorney to do my trademark. I didn't want to do that on my own because I didn't want to kick back. I wanted to go through the first time and pass. So the first year for me, it wasn't even about making money. It was like, I want to put this company in a financial and a solid infrastructure so I can build upon that. I want to make sure my logo is going to be protected. I'm going to be protected. My company will be protected. My books are right. I won't have any issues with accounting. I won't have any issues with the IRS, like you said, because they will want their money. I want to make sure that I know what my cost of goods are. I know what my margins are. I know what my net profits are. I know how to read a P&L, which I mean, from corporate, I know how to read a P&L report, but how to get more granular what my P&L report is. I knew how to even fact check my own bookkeeper because, these are human beings. So sometimes they can make mistakes. You want to be able to say, okay, well, you allocated this money here, that needs to be redirected there, or this needs to be taken off the balance sheet because it really isn't, it's not helping to strengthen your company. In terms of how it looks, you have to be granular and intentional about everything that you're doing, but educate yourself via YouTube, educate yourself via books, and also reach out to so many resources that are available, like the SBDC, like SCORE. I've done the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Cohort. I've been a part of the SBDC cohort and a whole lot of other cohorts. So for me, it was all about educating and empowering yourself. And one of the biggest frustrations I can say for me was being a part of cohorts and people asking questions that they should know as an entrepreneur. And, I know you should get a lot of great distinguished guests, but people just get lazy. They want to take information they read off of Instagram, thinking, oh, you go create an LLC, go file for $1 million loan from a bank, and you're going to get it. Now you go buy a G-Wagon. That is not true. That is not the case.
So thank you for saying that, Kevin. No.
You have to personally guarantee. You have to have a strong credit report on your own. I'm not saying your credit has to be perfect, but I know I made sure I had my affairs in order personally, and I wanted to focus on the company. And for me, looking at all the different components that was going to make this company thrive and be viable. Because for me, although I started this company 2.5 years ago, my ultimate plan is to franchise. I plan on redefining the franchise model and creating greater opportunities for people of color to be able to buy into a business and own a business that is actually prosperous. Since the company has started, we have grown revenue 40% year over year. Wow. That is unheard of.
Unheard of.
Because I know my margins. Why? Because I know my cost of goods are. Why? Because I negotiate. Why? Because I'm looking at everything from a critical perspective and understanding what works, make it work. What doesn't work, take it out of there. I pay my guys properly. I work with the city and gain resources that make other people just don't know about because they're not reading. They're not going to different events. They're not talking to people and finding out. You know what you know and you know what you don't know. And as an entrepreneur, it is so viable critically. I know the math numbers gets way, painstaking, but when you know your company, think about your own bank account. You know where that money is going. You're looking at it. You're in tune with it. And don't mix your personal expenses with your business expenses. And when you know how you're paying for this, you're paying for that, you're able to go through accounting and like I said, fact check and check but verify the numbers that your bookkeeper is saying and allocating. No check is written without my signature by my accountant or my bookkeeper. So you're keeping track of your money. You know where things are going. You're keeping track of your labor, which will be one of your biggest expenses.
Yeah.
Think about how can you work more streamlined? Do you really need all these people working at the same time? How can you work efficiently, yet without having to compromise the customer experience of having to wait in line? When I tell you we have processes and systems for everything, I can tell you exactly how long it takes me to fill a container of water to make ice.
Awesome.
Seriously, like when I'm training people, I say, it takes you X amount of seconds. This is how much time you have to do. So when you stand there and you delayed and you take it longer than when I know it needs to be done, there's a problem there. Hire great people. You want solid people on your team. At first, me, I'm like, okay, I want to bring people in. I want to give people a second chance, regardless of your background. All that is great. Don't get me wrong. You want to look out for people, especially people who come from a disenfranchised and marginalized background. However, you want to make sure people have the skill sets. So I start finding, I got my Sally Struthers bleeding heart stories coming to me, and I'm but yet the performance I'm getting from these people, and you're spending this money on training and labor, it just wasn't balancing out. So now I had to restructure my whole hiring process. There's there's a thorough application process. There's an assessment. I make sure they know how to do alphabetical order because they have to put the flavors in alphabetical order. They have to know how to do basic mathematics, arithmetic, math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And I give them word problems to make them think more critically about it and see how they thought about it. I even make them present an essay. Why you want to work for Fluffy Sno-Balls and what do you plan on bringing to the company that you feel is missing or that is missing. I want to know people have done research on our company and know what kind of culture we have. And because we're highly engaged in the community. So I want to be able to channel that in. And so you look at your finances, you're trying to figure out how do I best make this company thrive? You want to think long-term and not just see the tree in front of you, but you want to see the forest behind you. Well, forest behind a tree.
Kevin, I don't think I have ever heard such a great summary of intellectual understanding spoken within like 10, 15 minutes ever. So let me first say that. Secondly, and I'm not putting this on you, but what I had pictured while you were speaking, you ready for this? So Fluffy Sno-Balls is already the franchise, right? But I saw you on a stage with the huge logo of Fluffy Sno-Balls and your books that you have written and being a motivational, educational speaker about the right way to start a company. So that was the vision that just came to me. And well, you have to check back with me and say, you know what, Lori, here's the picture of me on stage with Fluffy Sno-Balls logo and the books in front of me.
We'll remember this moment.
I mean, I kept laughing internally because the whole time you were speaking, that is what I was seeing in my mind's eye. I really was. I was like, yeah, he's going to go off and do this, but this isn't where you're supposed to be yet either, because you can influence a certain amount of people with Fluffy Sno-Balls, but I feel as though your spirit needs a bigger platform, and I think it's going to come someday. Okay, enough of me like giving you, forecast of your future, but I just was so touched by my own vision, I had to share it with you. Now, here's something, and it's more of a statement, I think, because at this point we definitely addressed it, but it was something that one of our audience wrote, and she wrote it so beautiful and elegant. I've got to read it, and then you could talk a little bit about your people as well, but I love it. Her thing is to Kevin. I'm going to read it verbatim. And Christine Harris, by the way, wrote this. Your attitude and your choice to keep treating everybody with so much love and graciousness must affect how everyone in the company do their jobs. Have you noticed that customers are drawn to your company because of this? Christine, thank you so much for writing that. Kevin, please take it from there.
That made me get emotional. put so much heart into this company, and I put so much heart into these kids. These kids don't come from much. They don't have the right guidance.
You're making me tear up.
I'm sorry, I know. Christine did caused all this. Oh my gosh. You know, I'll never forget years ago, I watched an Oprah Winfrey show, and she said that you can make a difference in this world. And even, you know, even with the amount of money, you may not have to have my amount of money, but you can do what you can with what you have. I hire only high school kids, and I do that deliberately because I want them to see as they go into business. I'm so sorry.
No,
Excuse me.
please don't. I
Um,
love it. You're a human and you're showing it. And I love that. Do not
I-
apologize for it.
I want those kids to see that you can work for a company that genuinely cares about you. Their education comes before their work shift. Their education comes before their career with Fluffy Sno-Balls. I want to impart wisdom, mentorship, development on those kids, that the lessons and the skills they learn from Fluffy Sno-Balls, they're able to take that with them for whatever career path they decide to go in life. I understand that my company is just a vessel to help them get to that next step and bring them that experience. My customers mean so much to me. We go above and beyond to ensure that our customers are having an amazing experience. I mean, from the moment when people walk in that door, it's like me seeing my favorite cousin that I haven't seen in a really long time that walks in, and I'm like, hey, Fluffy Sno-Balls. It feels so good. You know, like I tell people, it's made, the product is truly made with love. Every detail is thought of. I mean, the details are from the moment the customer walks in the door, we're appealing to all five senses, from the sense of sound when they hear New Orleans jazz music, you know, the greats of John Coltrane or Louis Armstrong, or some upbeat, you know, second line music, to the sense of the store, to the cleanliness, the visual aesthetic of the store, the touch, the taste of the product. Like, and then once they receive their product, when they think the experience is over and they get their Sno-Ball and they have their little gummy bear on top that blows them away, then they get their spoon and they're like, oh my gosh, the spoon changes colors. Like, love is in the details. And I thought about, how do I want these people to be affected? I've had customers that I'm just doing me, working my job. And they're like, oh my gosh, the conversations we have, from a young lady whose mother just passed away, I had no knowledge about it, and made her feel better, to the girl who got her heart broken by a boy, to the young man who was making foolish decisions. I had to sit him down and talk to him like, you're no different than me. Life for me has not been a crystal stair, but I have been consistent and I have been deliberate and intentional about the life I wanted to create for myself. And it really overwhelms me when people do recognize that and say, like, you in your company, you're doing whatever needs to get done to keep the company rolling, you know, going and staying afloat. You try to find time to be centered and get still when you face with those moments of just ambiguity or insecurity, and like you say, you're doubting yourself. But it's for me, it's about heart. It's about connecting to the human experience and to people. People out here and are struggling, they're hurting. And if I could just bring a little ounce of joy, you coming into my company and my store and getting treated like you are Beyonce, it makes me feel really good, because everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves to feel special.
You know, I often heard this phrase, what does it mean to live a successful life? Kevin, in my opinion, you are living a successful life. It's about everything you just said. And I just want to tell you that I have changed after this interview. I feel like I'm just floating on air in just this wonderful space of being able to share this time with you. And I want to thank you so much. And I want to give a couple minutes to any last words you'd like to say to the audience. And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to being on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, Lauren, for the opportunity as well. What I would like to leave the audience with is a quote by Les Brown. He says, when you want a thing so bad, you gotta be, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, when you want a thing so bad, you gotta be willing to work for it and sweat for it and give up all fear of the opposition for it. Nor fear or, he said, nor fear or famine, guilt or doubt, can come between the thing that you really want to do with your life. Just paraphrase, try to remember it. And I just want people to know that it's tough at times, but you'll make it through. It's just don't give up, be consistent, be intentional, most importantly, and definitely be a student of your life, because life, it all unfolds. It all unfolds. I know it may not make sense. Trust me, the jobs I've had, I'm like, huh? Why am I here? I hate it. I'm doing this. You're making money, but it all made sense. When I look at this company, it all makes sense. I learned that, I did that, I knew that, I experienced this, and now I'm able to take all of that and now create a company that is far bigger, better, and greater than any title, wealth, or position I ever held working for someone else.
You know, in the end, it does all make sense when people hear my story and they go, oh, you knew where you were going. I go, no, I was lost all the time. It's just now it all makes sense. And, you know, going on your term, deferred dream, another thing that kept resonating with me, deferred dream leads to a better chance of perfection. If you would have started this when you were walking the beach, you would not have the fluffy snowballs you have today. There is no way. So when we don't get what we want, say, wow, I'm going to hold on to this, because when it comes, it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Lauren, I am speechless on today.
So amazing, so inspiring. I initially was just excited because Kevin, I don't know if you know, I am born and raised here in Long Beach, but I went to school at Xavier. And so that's how I met my husband. That's the connection. Okay. So Lori, when I see Louisiana or New Orleans or anything, any business here in California that says, you know, it's authentic, I'm a skeptic, because it doesn't typically live up to the hype.
They'd be like, yep.
But the Sno-Balls were so good the first time I went. And then I had my husband go, and he's like, yeah, this is legit. So you guys be sure to go. And then to just your story, such, I mean, inspiration just seems like such a understatement, but today's session was enlightening. Is good, Melissa. I like enlightening. It was just an experience that I for sure won't forget, and I'm sure the rest of our viewers won't either. So thank you for just being so authentic and transparent.
Absolutely. I won't either. Now, just one quick thing, Lauren, before we close for today. Christine did have a question, and I want to answer it because it's regarding what I was talking about, the estimates on the tax. Is it advisable to pay them, especially if your business isn't making any money? Christine, no, because if you're paying 100% of the previous year, but you don't have the cash flow, don't pay into the IRS, but know that you may have to get to 90% to avoid the underpayment penalty. But if you're not profitable that year, 90% of what you owe would be nothing. So that's why when CPAs or EAs set you up with these coupons and they're not seeing you till April, if your financial situation changes, it may not make sense to pay in the coupons. So you can even go back to your, CPA or whoever did the coupons. But definitely, I'm a big advocate of don't pay out money until you have to, but you don't want at the same time not be knowledgeable about how much you owe and get a penalty. So I wanted to clean that up. Very good question, Christine. Very good question. So I just want to say thank you. So Kevin, I'm already going to tell you you're coming back on the show. It's already going to happen. So you're going to be one of those repeats. There is no way we cannot have additional conversations with you. So I'm not going to say goodbye, Kevin. I am going to say till we have you on the show again.
Indeed.
So I
Thank
want to
you.
thank all of our frequent flyers and those new to the show. I'm sure you're going to become a frequent flyer, because how can you listen to this and not want more? It was just unbelievable. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for watching Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. And I look forward to seeing everybody again next week, when we are going to be talking about all the HR things that you have to deal with, and AB5. We're going to discuss that again. Lauren, thank you for everything. I know you're going to stay behind. I know you've got a party going on with lots of questions in the chat. So make sure everybody out there, head out to Long Beach and have yourself a fluffy snowball and say hi to Kevin and the wonderful kids that he's got working there. Okay. Much love, Kevin. Thank you. I'll see everybody next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lori. Thank you. Bye, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. All right, everyone, be sure to take a look at the chat. You'll see contact information for Kevin as well as for Lori. I just put my email in one more time. It's that lsimpson@lbcc.edu, so that you can get in contact with Lori. If connecting with Kevin on social media, if you're looking for, to be able to send an email to someone to dive in deeper into like a request, or I don't know, a meeting you might like to have with him, please be sure to use that same email address. So that's that lsimpson@lbcc.edu. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was awesome. And I don't know about you guys, but I think I might get a snowball today. Take care. Bye.